What's going on, guys? Welcome into episode number 45 of the Ask Tony Show. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I'm very excited about today's topic. It's one that I'm going to make a little bit of a confession here to you guys, to all of our audience. College for me was super hard. And college for me was something that I did not finish. And just to give you guys a little bit of background, about 5, 6 years ago, I started in college. First couple semesters, I wanted to graduate in political science. But at that time, I was engaged. I got married. We were moving, and all of a sudden, life got really hard, really fast. And all of a sudden, I had all these responsibilities, and I decided to not continue. And now, kind of looking back, I wish that I would have continued and actually finished the career that I wanted to go down. And so today's guest is, in my opinion, a professional student. This dude is a LA Film School graduate. And not only that, but his story of how he got from just starting in school to graduating, what he went through, and also at the same time, being a content creator for one of the biggest direct sales companies in the world is absolutely remarkable. My guest, Edwin De Avila, thank you so much for being here, my man.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Tony. I'm really excited to be here today.
I think it's going to be a great conversation. And like I said, college for me was super hard. You know, I was excited initially, and then I kind of fell off. But tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about your background, why the LA Film School. Tell us a little bit.
Well, I also had a very interesting story when I first started school. I started at Brigham Young University, and that was many years ago, probably about 5, 6 years ago as well. And at that time, I think I was going with just as you were, going through the same thing. I was engaged, I was working full time, and many things were happening in my life that um, for some reason it put a block versus like continuing school and actually continuing with my life, and my motivations and my career and things that I wanted to do. And so I put a big stop on it, and that was always a big bummer on my end. It was something that I always wanted to do it. I've always grown up with that that mindset of like graduate, like be the first in your family. You've always grown up with a Latino family. Both my parents were from Mexico. None of them went to university, and it was a big a big inspiration to me and a big motivation to want to be that first person in the family to kind of set the example, right? And not only for my family, but to me, like it was a big personal development for myself. And I chose the LA Film School now, actually 3 years ago, because one of my a person that I consider a mentor at work, her name's Karen Tamai. She also went to school, and she was she had her bachelor. She's actually working on her MBA right now, and it was something that she held very highly, and it was like, man, that's something that I want, and it's something that I definitely see in my career path, and it's something that I definitely want to strive for, and that motivated me to start. Now, the reason I chose the LA Film School was because one, it was they had the program that I wanted to work on, and it was all online, and that was huge for me because I already had a boy. He was 1 year old, and he had speech delay. He was already struggling a little bit there, and for me, it was super important to begin something online where I could be listening to an instructor and being able to have the flexibility and press pause on the lecture, whatever, attend to my son, attend to my wife, and at the same time be able to resume and continue on with my activities. So that's one of the reasons. Another big reason why the LA Film School was important was, I studied digital filmmaking, and at the time it was something that I was already working on at New Skin. I was a what was called a program manager, and I was starting to do videos for the company. But they were, very, very low end, very, I think my skill level at that time was very, very simple. And but the LA Film School I just felt was the most appropriate school to be able to progress in the career path that I really wanted to go towards.
We hear about a lot of stories of people graduating college, right? And it's a great thing. But the reason why I wanted to bring Edwin on specifically is because I really found that his story was remarkable of what he went through 2019 and more specifically in 2020. And so, just to give you guys a little bit of context, number one, obviously, COVID, right? The pandemic hits, people are going out of business, nobody can go out, everybody's scared. There's just all this uncertainty all over the place. Basically, the world comes to a halt in the spring, right? And so, at that time, Edwin is still in school, working almost to his graduation. So COVID hits. Number one. Number two, he has a brand new baby. So that's tough. I have a 4-year old and it can be a nightmare early on. So we have COVID, we have new baby, and he's still working full time. And so when I heard this story, I thought, okay, this dude has every possible reason slash excuse to say, okay, I'm gonna just step back a little bit, take a break. And anybody would have understood that. But you didn't do that, Edwin. So walk us through that whole ordeal of 2020 and why you decided to push through instead of maybe taking a understandable break.
Absolutely. 2020 for me was a crazy journey, a life journey. I think it's a story for all of us, right, to share. And, my 2020 really began with, yeah, my son was born in March. My son Camilo was born in March. And, during that time in March, COVID had just hit, and in Utah specifically, with the lockdown, especially at the hospitals. And during that time, there was only one guest allowed at the hospital, and that guest was it. Like nobody else was allowed to visit, nobody was allowed to come and go. And my wife, she had a C-section for our child, and it was a tough recovery. And at the same time, I'm trying to finish school. I'm in my last few months, and I really had to be that support system for my wife. While she was there, my mother-in-law wasn't allowed to visit. My own mom wasn't allowed to visit. So nobody got to even see the baby during that time. And during that time, I'm next to my wife in the hospital room, trying to finish my assignments, doing my discussions, doing the quizzes, everything that we have to do for that. And that was tough. But not only that, we had that going on in my home and in my life, right, at the same time at work. 2020 has really pushed us to be more virtual and more digital, and more video productions. And man, work was increasing like no other. During, obviously, when my baby was born, I was in a paternal break, but there was times where I had to answer something for work, or hey, we're planning this coming up. What are your dates and whatnot? So, man, we were doing virtual productions. We were doing some, massive shoots. We're doing, modeling shoots. We're doing a lot, and obviously everything's starting to slow down. Everything's on lockdown, but we had to make work, continue, right? And so my work had increased tenfold, and yes, it was absolutely difficult. But again, school for me, once I started school, especially this time, it was especially important for me to finish. And I knew that, regardless of what was happening in my life, one, I needed to balance obviously my work life, my home life, but school life was definitely in that bubble as well. And I needed to finish. I was not gonna put a stop to it. I'm investing in my future, and I was not gonna put a stop to it at this time. My mindset was clear, and it was finish school. And so that's what happened. I do think that 2020 was a big time for all of us. And for me especially, obviously being that busy puts a strain, on family. It puts a strain on everybody. There was times where I was definitely having to say no to family events. There'd be someone's birthday, and apart from COVID and a newborn baby that I didn't want to expose to this virus that was happening. I was extremely busy as well. My weekends were focus on school and focus on getting the tasks done, because if you don't turn in this assignment, your grades are going to show that. So it was a difficult time, but at the same time, again, I was really lucky to depend on a school that was all online. They were also completely adjusting to the situation, and they were flexible with anything that was happening if we were exposed or whatever. But at that time, I knew my mindset was clear on finishing school, and that's what was going to happen.
I love it. And I think that there's so much there. There's so much to unpack just
Oh
in
yeah.
that story. Right? So, number one, as you mentioned, when you set a goal, you got to finish it, guys. There's so many of us that set goals and we don't finish. But the interesting thing here is, and I'm really interested to kind of dive a little bit deeper into your mental state and your mentality, because somebody that has so much on top of them, it's really easy to get overwhelmed. I know so many people that cannot handle even just full-time work and part-time school. They can't do it. They get stressed out, they get overwhelmed, and that puts you in a negative mental state to where, we even start talking about things like depression, mental illness, and obviously that starts to affect your family in your circle. And so, how does one go about having so much that is obviously stressful, but yet staying positive and staying in a productive mindset?
Wow. Well, that is a very, very good question. For me, again, I think for the first time in my life, something clicked about the journey and the career that I wanted to take. Many years ago, again, I started in BYU, electrical engineering. It was something that I was like, yeah, I think I can do that. I love math, I love physics. This is, the path. But at that time, it was just the clarity of what I wanted to actually move forward in my life was so clear. And yes, the moment might not have been ideal, having kids, but again, I wanted to be that example for my family, for everybody, and for myself that I need to finish. So, regardless of everything that was going on, I knew that this was going to be the most important, steps in my life and in my future. If I didn't do this now, I mean, man, it was going to be incredibly hard to do this later. My sons were still very young and they were starting to go to school. My son had a speech delay, so he was trying to constantly communicate, but he was struggling a lot. He couldn't, get the words out, and he was going to some help, and um, he was trying to develop those skills that he needed. And during that time, it was very difficult to kind of obviously put things on pause with school and help him in his speech delay. But again, my motivation was so clear, and I think that's what truly just kept me in line. There was also, I think, a lot of mentors in my schooling that motivated me personally, and helped me to continue in this path. There's always something about recognition that keeps you so motivated on your task, and being recognized at work for what I was learning and being able to apply that to work. And then at school, they were seeing the huge development. My grades were, at a very high level at that time as well. And at home, I was trying to balance and help my wife out as much as I could with the baby, the sleep times, the waking up at nights, splitting up the shifts. Man, it was hard, absolutely. And yes, there was a lot of desveladas, having to, stay up really late, helping the baby, the baby's waking up, periodically throughout the night, having to do that, wake up early, go to work, and then at night try to finish up my schoolwork. So yes, there's a lot of things on your head. I think I'm the type of individual that at night when I try to go to sleep, there's everything's crossing my brain, everything's crossing my mind, and it's kind of hard to like just relax and go to sleep. But again, just going back to the motivation and my mindset, it was at a different level, I think, at this point in my life versus any other moment in my life. And I've never had this clarity to continue my career, to finish school, to continue progressing at work, and then the development of my family. I'm building a family, I'm building long-term relationships here with my kids and with my wife. It's a constant progression, and that clarity was just so important to me, and I'm so glad that I did it, because now I'm not in school, and now my balance is work and home life, right? And that's super important to me right now.
Yeah, and that concept, is one that I think all of us should strive to implement more, in the sense that maybe you have to suffer for a little bit and it's
Mhm.
going to be really hard, but you just got to get through it, and once you finish, then everything is just going to be so much better, right? And so, I find it really interesting, the dynamic of school and work. And so, give us a little bit of context on your company? Because New Skin is one of the biggest direct sales companies in the world. And as you mentioned, you took on a much greater role. So, what talk to us a little bit about the culture of allowing, in this case, yourself, go through school while still taking on more and more projects. It seems like it would be a risky proposition for your employer. So, talk to us a little bit about what that dynamic was like.
Whew, absolutely. My focus, is it's true. It's not 100% there, right? But I know that my career, was to definitely focus on the digital field, and I am all about innovating at work and coming up with new ideas and constantly trying to, progress rather than stop. And at that time, like I mentioned, it was all going to a virtual world, right? And a digital world, and having a lot more lives and having this interaction, in a virtual setting. And um, yeah, at that time, obviously work, um, I think they started really noticing that my skills were just improving so much. And I think that was, obviously heavily related to schooling. I was able to apply exactly what I was learning to my job, and that was super important to me. I think I had a great base, when I started, but obviously, with schooling, I was able to apply things that were not being done in the company at that time, and come up with new ideas and constantly try to innovate. Um, you know so I think it was a big plus for the company, to for me to go to school and for me to continue my career. And obviously now I think that, as I because I was able to finish, I'm able to continue looking for more opportunities, or even stay in my job and now pursue higher career paths, right, based on what I studied. But yeah, during that time, I mean, we were doing full video productions all the time, and these are long hours. We would have to do videos, all day, come back, edit. I was actually reviewing not too long ago a production we did, and there was a total of like 385 videos that we edited for a virtual event that we did. And which was a huge success. But again, it was applying these skills that I was able to learn from school onto my job. And again, this has it really has made a big difference in my life and in work. And that's been super important. And I think that at work, again, they definitely appreciated that. It's a little bit hard to for them to give me that feedback of like, oh man, you're still in school and you're home and but at the same time, I am the type of individual that I am focused in what I'm doing, and I'm going to give it my best. And there's nothing short to that. So that's exactly what I try to do.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me. And as I've thought about it, it seems like such a, I guess, like a typical story, right? Someone is working, they're having their kids, and then they go to school, but there's so much here. So I'm going to kind of throw you a curveball here because I just barely thought of this, and I had a conversation
Yeah.
with someone a little a little bit ago. But as I'm if I see it from the point of view of an employer, you know, I might just hire someone who already has a degree, right? Instead of allowing you the grow that time to grow and to actually get through your studies and stuff. And so that seems like in many cases, perhaps it would make more sense. But there are a lot of people that work at a company, a corporate job, and they really struggle to catch their employer's attention. They really struggle to stand out. They struggle to get noticed. And so it seems to me that in order for you to have the benefit of doing more, when maybe the skill set wasn't there initially, would require you to do something to get your supervisors and managers to take a look at you and say, okay, we got something here. What advice would you give to an employee who maybe like to do that, but they kind of feel like they're in the shadows and nobody notices them?
Oh man, that is a excellent question, and I definitely went through my own personal journey in this, and developing these skills, and that was, give it a shot. Really fake it until you make it. And it's so true. Again, I mentioned that I had a very powerful mentor at work, and man, she was putting me in front line of everything. You're going to take ownership of this and you're going to get the heat if anything goes wrong. And, we're obviously a team and we're all in this together, but this is your baby. So make your baby, evolve. And man, that was incredibly important to me because, yes, I was now taking on all this responsibility from work, and now it was all falling on me and my team. And that was actually what motivated me a lot to try it. Let's see what works, let's see what doesn't, and continue to build upon that. And yes, there was times where we're like, man, we tried that, didn't work out as we expected, let's try this now.
Mm.
And that constant pursuit to not be afraid to almost fail honestly allowed me to grow so much more. And that's incredibly important especially when developing or trying to progress in your career. You have to be willing to give it a shot. And yeah, truly fake it till you make it. Um, I was in full studios, and I have to be the creative director, the in charge of all the productions, who's the models that we're going to utilize, and kind of be in charge of it all. And yes, I am the creative director right now. Let's make this happen, right? Taking my notes and being like, all right, let's get you doing this, let's get you doing that. But honestly, faking it until you're making it, and then that was actually how I did it. That's how I feel that I've been able to progress so much at work. They were able to see that confidence in me. They were able to see that I was getting out of my comfort zone, and that was super important. But on top of getting out of my comfort zone, I was able to, what was started off as a production here, make something out of that and make it so much better. And from then on, it's been that mindset, like, why slow down now? Let's continue to make the best things that we possibly can. We have prime examples from everywhere of other people doing this. They're all trying to figure this out. They're all trying to figure out the bread and butter for virtual events and productions and all this. Why can't we? And that's exactly what we've been doing. And we've been, obviously, if a failure came, we were ready to accept that and continue to improve on that. But at the same time, most of the time after that first failure, it was a success rate after that. And it was just this confidence that you build. And that was very important. And again, that wouldn't have been possible if I didn't have the right mentor at work. And many times at work, I think um, you think you're kind of just stuck like this, but I was really allowed to spread my wings and just say, hey, you know what? You're owning this and you're taking charge, and this is your moment to shine. And that was, again, very incredibly important for me in my career path, and being allowed to fail, but also being allowed to improve.
Yeah, it makes me think so much of just taking advantage of your opportunities. Guys, when you
Yes.
have an opportunity, that's a small window in time, right? It's right now, it's you have this thing, you have to take it and you have to run with it. And because especially in corporate America, if you don't, I mean, big companies, if you don't cut it, they'll just fire you, man. Like they'll put up a posting and they'll have 50 applicants the next day. Like you like you're not indispensable, if you will. So you really have to take those opportunities and recognize them. And instead of thinking of all the reasons why you can't do it, I haven't graduated, I've never done this before, I don't really know, what if I fail? You got to find the positive and actually get it done. And so I love that. But then we have the other side, Edwin, and something that I have kind of struggled a little bit with in the past is, you and I have our goals, right? I need to graduate. I'm working. I have this project. I have this client. It's me. But then you got people at home, and it's like, we're so focused on us, in my case, building the brokerage and hiring agents and training agents, and I got to do this podcast and I got to do this, and then I got people in my house, right? My wife, my kid. So let's dive a little bit more into that dynamic, and how do we not get so overwhelmed with our goals and what we want to do that we start to neglect the people at home, because I see that so often with folks.
I have to really start this off by saying that I am absolutely grateful for my wife. She took this all on, right? This wasn't something that was planned. It was not something that we had really given much thought of until I really decided, okay, this is my focus now, and this is what I'm gonna take on, and it's this, and this. And that that was one of the first key things, was really having the support of my wife, the support of having someone to take care of the kids while I was out doing all this other things, and that was incredibly important. So yes, that was absolutely huge, and I am absolutely grateful for my wife and all the sacrifices that she made, because there were a ton. My son, again, one dealing with a speech delay, one younger baby just being born, and that is a lot. That is a lot on a woman. That is a lot on someone who is at home constantly. And the only conversations they were having is with the kids, and the only time she ever had an opportunity to conversate with anybody else was with me. And I'm over here with tackling on all these other things and doing homework at the same time. But at home, it's really focus on my relationship, focus on my wife, focus on my kids, while also thinking about work, but and homework and all that, but really being able to make it worth it at home, make it worth it for my wife, and man, put that extra effort also to taking care of my kids and taking that load when as soon as I was here. And that, man, that took me a while. I think with my firstborn, it was something that I struggled with so much. And obviously, in any relationship, communication is key. And that is something that took me a while to understand. Like, man, I'm the one working. I'm the one going out here. Like, why do I have to put in the effort to wake up at night? You know? But when you really start looking at the other side, and you're like, oh man, she's absolutely right. She has no breaks. Even after I arrive, she's continuing to do this work. And I'm like, that's not fair at all. Like, I totally understand that. Yes, I have all this other pressure on me, but man, my wife is nonstop. So I had to, change my mindset even at home, and really accept that, my wife isn't doing this by herself. I am here, I'm her husband, but I'm also a dad, and I have to be that father figure for my kids. And I have to take that moment to take a break and, help my son with his speech delay, play with him, communicate with him more, role play in different, game settings, so that he can start developing his skills as well. And yes, that is another thing in my life that, again, I feel that I have grown so much. And obviously, it's been with my wife's help. I wouldn't have never done this without her, but it's something that you continue to develop as you go through life. All these, your kids go through a different development of stage of life and education and all that. And I have to be here, and I have to be here to support and to help and to truly be present at home, and not just be thinking about other things, and not just be working all the time and always, doing my homework or whatever. It's actually being present in the moment and helping my wife. So, that was my life. It was really adjusting and learning a lot from the expectations that my wife had, the expectations that even others had. Like I had, other family members that were also like, hey, we want to come see the baby. And it was a difficult time to even set up a moment for them to even see the baby. We're like, man, we have the fear of coronavirus. We should probably stay at home. We probably shouldn't have other people, you know um, coming to visit our home. What if they have it? What if they don't? Should they be wearing a mask while they're here? We didn't know. This was a new moment in our life as well, and we were trying to adjust. But again, it was a lot of communication. It was a lot of adjusting. Personally, in not only my career and everything else that I had, but adjusting at home and being a present dad, a present father. That's actually one of my you know biggest things in my life. I think I have a lot of issues with my parental relationships, with my own mom and with my own dad. And a lot of that have to do with what they went through in a divorce and at a young age, and things that I had. And it was super important that when I became a father, that I was going to be present, that I was going to be interacting with my kids, that I was going to be playing with them, that I was going to be here. When I'm at home, I am here and I'm with them and I'm playing with them, and I'm giving them the attention they need. And that was extremely important to me. So with that, Yes, I had to make a lot of adjustments, but I definitely couldn't have done it without my wife's help.
That's why I love this story, right? That's why I was so interested about your story because it's so relatable. It's things that we all struggle with. We all struggle with these things. And when I just think about the situation that you were in, and I try to do this with most of my guests, to just kind of put myself in their shoes. There's so much that could go wrong at any given moment. Like you basically have to score a home run every day, because if some I mean there's so much there kind of in the balance, right? You got family
Right.
and work and school and assignments, and so it's truly remarkable to me that there's just so much could go wrong at any given moment, and yet it didn't. So I love that. And you mentioned communication. It's been the same in my life. Over communicating is absolutely key. Just making sure that you're both on the same page, that you know what they need, they know what you need, and you actually, like you said, put in the effort to make that happen and appreciate what the other person is also bringing to the table. So
Absolutely.
I absolutely love that. Let's get a little bit more technical into where you went to school, the LA Film School. When people think of LA film, they think Hollywood, and it's La La Land, and it's the place where everybody wants to be. And so, a couple things that I found interesting was, number one, that it was all online. And I've heard different arguments on whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. And so, talk to us a little bit about what your experience was at the LA Film School.
Man, the LA Film School was honestly there was no other better school for me. One, it was super fascinating that a lot of the instructors had a very complex Hollywood background. I mean, I was taking design and art classes, and my art instructor was like, "Yeah, I have a huge um, exhibit here, and I have to turn in an art piece, and here it is in the background, and that's going up at LACMA, and that's a huge museum in LA." And this guy's like, "Yeah, and so and so," and that was inspiring to me, man. These guys were professionals in their career. They were professionals in the industry. Some of them were just finishing up a show on Netflix, and they would tell us, briefly about that. And then the learnings that we were trying to like learn how to apply that in their own jobs and careers. And man, that was inspiring. It honestly, it was a hook from the beginning. It was just like, man, I get to learn from these professionals and still get my bachelor's after this. That's huge. um,
Yeah.
and so that was incredibly like motivating to begin at the LA Film School. And then once I did, and once I was there again, I got the opportunity to learn from a lot of people that were very skilled, very experienced, were giving true feedback in the industry live as it was happening. It wasn't something about learning years ago. And there was a little bit of that, right? But it's like, okay, well, how can we take this learning to what's happening now during COVID, during 2020, and that was incredibly important. Now, the decision to do it online was absolutely clear to me. I had done the campus life, and having a kid, that was going to be impossible. There was no way I was going to be able to be at home, being a dad, if I had to be in the campus. So to me, it was a no-brainer that online school was definitely the route for me. And again, I'm incredibly blessed that I did choose this school. I've actually now recommended it to people who work under me. There's a good friend of mine now, Marcus. He works under me. He's also doing video production, and he's also studying in the same school. And this has been, super good for him as well. And I've been able to share a little bit of my own experience, and he's been loving it. And again, being able to really like as you're going and learning through a lecture and being able to push pause. I mean, there is no other easier way to do that. I'd be mid notes, taking my notes in my notebook and listening to the lecture, being fully engaged. And oh, my son over here, hey, I want apple slices. And I'm like, crap. Okay, well, let me push pause, put everything down, put everything away for a second, and let me go get him his apple slices. And again, if I didn't have that flexibility, I wouldn't have finished school. I probably wouldn't have even started. It was definitely a motivator to go to school. But if I didn't have the flexibility to, take a small break if I needed to, and then continue my work, that was not going to be able to be possible for me. But again, there was I've never seen I've never seen a lot of advisors and a lot of people who actually truly care in you graduating and you continuing your path. I would get random messages from advisors and people who are just following me and my grades and all that, and they're like, "Hey, we noticed that you haven't turned in so and so assignment. How's this coming? Do you need an exception? What's going on in your life?" And I'd be like, "Hey, I have seen the assignment. I'm taking a quick break. I should be able to finish that, by Monday or whatever." And they would get a hold of my instructor and, say, "Hey, just so you know, Edwin, I spoke to him today and this is what he's going with." That was huge. Again, I don't think there is a better school, honestly, in my opinion, that's able to, kind of help you with those type of things. And again, that was what I needed at the time, and that's what I had. So I was able to just, take advantage of that, and actually, be able to focus of my home life, my school life, and then obviously, finish school.
Yeah, I hope you guys that are listening to this are hearing the same thing I'm hearing, which is over and over again. It's something that could get in the way and it doesn't. So you set your goal and you figure it out. You can't do campus, cool, find online. You can't do it all day long, fine, do it whenever you can, time block, like find a way, right? And it's actually super interesting. And it got me thinking with our team, we're studying a book that's called The Alchemist. And in The Alchemist, it talks about that when you are going after your goal, the universe conspires in your favor, right? And it just seems to me like you have landed in the right place at the right time so many times over and over again, from your job to your spouse to, just everything is kind of lined up to the school that you went to, the instructors that you got at the specific, like it's so fascinating to me that when someone is going for it and they have a good intention and they're actually trying, things just work out. But the issue is that so many people just don't start. And we take all those negative things and we don't allow ourselves to actually try and see where this can go. And so I love this story. So, Edwin, just to kind of wrap up, going through this whole experience, the LA Film School, making content for New Skin, there's a lot of my listeners are small entrepreneurs. Maybe they want to make content, they're kind of getting started. So, give us some tips that maybe a beginner could use to have higher quality videos, how to kind of come up with ideas. What would you say as someone who does this full time every day? What can a small person, just a beginner, start to implement to have better content?
Gosh, that's a good question. And to me, again, I think this goes more to how I started as well, and how I began to see a development also in my skills and my productions. And it's, man, fake it till you make it. Try new things. Be consistent. If you are not consistent, that's probably one of the most key words, right? To be consistent all the way through, and to continue to progress and continue to, try new things. I think even as you see influencers right now, or if you see YouTube and you follow, all these other people, you see that, their beginning videos were, minimal. Maybe they didn't, have the experience that they have now, but because they started, they went through those gaps, they went through those challenges, it's made them who they are today. And that is absolutely key in anything that you do. Being able to start and just being able to put yourself in front of a camera, or, whatever it is that you're trying to do or trying to accomplish, but being able to constantly give it your best foot forward. And if you fail, which absolutely can happen, you can only progress from that. So, that's my biggest tip. It's something that I've experienced in my own personal journey. It's things that I've seen in others. There were so many coworkers at work at New Skin that they started also in a certain level, and my gosh, where they are today, I am impressed. I have not seen people just develop all these skills if it wasn't for them giving that attempt and giving that try. Now, with regards to videos, this era is constantly changing. stay on trend, see what's new, what's out there. That's what it's about. It's about um, you know, constantly trying to think of like how can I make this better and how can I progress. And that's what life is about, and constantly staying up in trends and life. So we're in a new era, we're in a new digital phase and a new digital, world. There is no there's I mean, if you fail, it's okay. It's really okay. It's better to fail and then improve on that than to not give it a shot at all. So that's really my recommendation, and that's something that I would probably tell the viewers.
100%, 100%. So, Edwin, thank you so much for coming on the show. Just here as our last thing, the same thing that we do with every single guest. Tell us where people can find you, where people can plug into you. If you're doing projects on the side, this is kind of your moment to pitch yourself and what you're all about. And then just give us your top three tips just to finish off for somebody who is in school right now and feels overwhelmed and stressed and is considering quitting.
Oof. All right. Well, first of all, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. Edwin De Avila. You just can look me up through my name. Um, I think a lot of my work right now I've honestly been so busy that I haven't taken the time to actually promote myself too much. But I do have a lot of videos there that you can, see a little bit of my work, see a little bit of what I'm doing. Um, and to someone right now who is honestly debating quitting school, or quitting, or taking a break from it, man, there to me, there's no better time than the present. If you're in this moment right now and you have the ability to finish, obviously everybody goes through their own personal journey and everybody goes through their own personal struggles. So I can't say that my journey, the stars didn't align for me in a certain way to continue. I mean, obviously when you're putting your best foot forward and you're motivated and you have a goal, it's put those baby steps, put that goal in your mind and don't let it go. It's constantly continue to go towards your goal and finish, because you don't get that biggest relief until after you're done, right? And that's where I am today. I feel that obviously I may have other goals now, to continue on my educational journey and other things and other items within my career. But that goal of finishing my bachelor's was it. And anybody who's doing the same, I can only say, continue to move forward little by little. You're only going to get closer to your end result, and that should be your main focus. um I think that if anybody follows New Skin, I'm all my work there is being highlighted there all the time. And again, I am continuing to, progress in my own personal journey. And if that's with New Skin or with another company, that's okay. That's something that I am, looking to progress in my own career. But if you guys want to see my stuff, New Skin Latino America, that's where it's at.
Oh, awesome, guys. Check him out. Plug in New Skin, Nuskin. Awesome company. And with that being said, guys, this has been episode number 45 of the Ask Tony Show. Edwin, thank you so much for being here. Until next time, guys.
Thank you so much.